Welcome everyone to the Newburyport Literary Festival. My name is Jennifer Entwistle and I am the co-director of the festival, and we are so thankful that we're able to do this online during the time of quarantine. So this event is a little different from all the ones that we've been doing today. This is a much more interactive event. We'll be using the chat mechanism for you to give your input, and Connie is going to explain that a little bit more after my housekeeping tidbits. So we are in a webinar, so everyone, all of the attendees are in mute and we can't see you, but you'll be able to interact with us through chat. You'll see in chat right now, I've just put a little message there encouraging you to please get your books from independent bookstores, and in particular there are two that are partnering with us for the festival: Jabberwocky Bookshop here in Newburyport and the Bookshop of Beverly Farms. So you're all readers and book lovers. We really have to support our independent bookstores right now while we're all in shutdown, and what better time to read but now when we're stuck in the house alone, right? So I will introduce Connie and then let her explain our event for today. So Connie is our moderator. Connie Johnson Hambley horrified her parents by using her law degree to write high concept thrillers rather than pursue gainful employment. Two novels, Connie's Jessica trilogy, where family secrets link a world-class equestrian to a Boston-based terrorist cell, won the Best English Fiction Literary Award at the Equus International Film Festival. Connie is president of Sisters in Crime New England, a member of Mystery Writers of America, and co-chair of New England Crime Bake. Connie, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Jen, and the Newburyport Lit Fest for hosting Sisters in Crime New England. We are the regional chapter of a national organization of mystery and thriller writers, and today's session will be unlike any other panel you have seen. Today, you, the audience, are going to help us create a brand new mystery by giving us your ideas for the essential elements of our stories, by providing us with character names, setting, weapon, motive, and occupation. Our panel of experts today will take those threads and weave them into an exciting tale, all while explaining why they made the decisions they did. So you get a twofer. You get a brand new mystery, and two, you get a peek behind the curtain of what goes on in an author's mind when they make the decisions they do when concocting a tale of woe for our villain, victim, sleuth, and maybe a red herring or two, all through the prism of their specific genres. At the end of our session, we'll leave some time for questions and answers, which again, you'll be putting in the chat box at the bottom of your screen. As Jen said, I'm president of the New England chapter and author of suspense novels set here on the North Shore of Massachusetts, and our panelists each represent a specific genre. For traditional with a paranormal twist is Carolyn Marie Wilkins. She's the author and musician and psychic medium. Her three novels, Death at a Seance, Melody for Murder, and Mojo for Murder. She has performed with the Pittsburgh Symphony and represented her country as a jazz ambassador for the U.S. State Department. In addition, Carolyn maintains an active private practice as a psychic medium and a Reiki healer. Welcome, Carolyn.
Thank you so much, Connie. I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, it's awesome to have you. And with us too today for Police Procedural, we have Bruce Robert Coffin. He's the author of the award-winning Detective Byron Mysteries. As a detective sergeant in the Portland, Maine Police Department, he supervised all homicide and violent crime investigations. Following the terror attacks of September 11th, he spent 4 years investigating counterterrorism cases for the FBI and earned the Director's Award, the highest award a non-agent can receive. His short fiction has appeared in a number of anthologies, including Best American Mystery Stories. Welcome, Bruce.
Thank you, Connie. This is awesome.
I know, it's going to be really fun today.
Yeah.
And last and certainly not least, for suspense novels with a thriller kick is Joanna Schaffhausen. She's the author of the award-winning Ellery Hathaway series and the forthcoming Gone for Good. She has a PhD in psychology and previously worked at ABC News, writing and consulting for World News Tonight, Good Morning America, and 2020. These days, she teaches 5th grade in quarantine homeschool with a basset hound on her lap. So welcome, Joanna.
Hi, Connie. It's great to be here.
It's going to be awesome. So now let's get started. We are all in the same boat, authors and audience together. None of us knows what's going to happen right now. And so you see, the suspense is kind of building already. All right, so here's how you're going to help. Audience, when I give the word, you are going to write in the chat box below your suggestion for the element I call for. We are going to call for one element at a time. All right, so the first element I'm going to talk to you about today is our names, but we don't know yet if that name is going to be a villain, a victim, a sleuth. We don't know yet. So ready, audience? Let's put those suggestions in that chat box right now. All right,
Wow.
what are we seeing here?
Wow.
Wow.
Oh boy, holy mackerel. I knew that was going to happen. You know, authors, I have to say that when we were getting ready for today's panel, I had asked you where you wanted us to start as far as the clues were concerned, and you all said names. So what was it about names that made you want to start there? What is it about your story making that made you want to start there? Joanna, how about you?
Well, I have to confess, I don't usually start with names. I start with plot, and I think about something that happened, and then I think about who are the people that would be in this situation. But when I'm thinking about naming characters, you have to think about, are they cool sounding? Like your sleuth, you can want the sleuth to stand out, especially in a series. If the sleuth has to carry multiple books, you want to have like a cool name. You have to think about age, geographic location, ethnicity. All of these things go into picking the right name for somebody.
And Bruce, how about you? Where do you like to start your stories?
You know, it's sort of 50-50. Some of the names I intentionally pick for that reason, like that what Joanna was talking about. I like I don't know, they do something for me. They actually make me feel a certain way when I hear the name. It's almost like sometimes I can recognize that somebody has a name. They just look like a Sharon or they look like a Mitch. And so I kind of do that with characters. And then sometimes I struggle. And then it's not until the manuscript is written that I actually decide that I hate the name I've given the character, and then I'll go change it to something else, which is hard to do, right? You got to catch it. So
it is hard to do. It is hard to do. And I have to say that when I hear a name too, I immediately have some kind of physical impression of them. And Carolyn, you're nodding. Do you have that too?
I do, and I find I like to use names that are kind of evocative of either a class situation, an ethnicity, a vibe about the personality, something that will help the reader also to remember, because, you know, mysteries, we always have lots of characters and lots of suspects, so the names need to have a ping and a sparkle. And if I may, Connie, I'll just mention a couple of names that have stood out so far. Is that okay?
Sure, yeah. Absolutely, yes.
So I'm liking Dr. Bloodgood. I don't know who put that up there, but I read that and I was like, oh yeah, Dr. Bloodgood. Maybe this is someone who's been with an unhappy operation recently, but that one hit me. And the other one, Willow Sorensen. I like those two.
Down two, Carolyn. Okay. Did Joanna and Bruce, did you catch any names?
I like Professor Poochie.
Yeah.
And Fiona Hubert. Fiona is a good name. It's not too common, but like you understand how to pronounce it when you look at it. It stands out. Could be a sleuth, could be a villain, could go a lot of ways.
Right, right. And Bruce, did any names stand out for you?
Yeah, the only ones that actually the ones where I got a couple of the first and last name. I liked Estelle Gardner. That definitely rang. Estelle's not a name you see every day. And Sally Starr with 2 R's. I like that.
Ooh, yeah.
Right?
I'm immediately seeing what she's like, right?
Right.
So, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, you know, it's funny because one thing that authors try to do, they certainly try to name their characters in a way that makes it easy to kind of follow that one character through. So you don't want to have a Kevin and a Devin. Do you have any thoughts on the when you choose a name, what you don't do with the other characters?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You don't want the reader, back to this whole point, you know, if it's a traditional mystery and you've got maybe at least 5, 6, 7 suspects, each one of them needs to have a name that is distinctive so the reader doesn't get mixed up.
Right. Right, right. And you wouldn't want their first name always to start with a K, like
Yeah.
you know, Kathy and Kevin necessarily, unless they were twins. And then, you know, maybe that name convention would work, but you do want to kind of stay away from that. And then what about having a number of characters in your story? Do you like to have just populate the heck out of your stories, or do you like to whittle it down? Bruce, how about you?
You know, it really depends on the story. For my first book, I actually bit off more than I meant to, and it was because I was telling a historical piece. So there was something that happened 20 years prior that was in connection directly with what was happening present day. And that, unfortunately, required me to have more characters than I normally would have. And the only real challenge with that was I was able to pick different names, so they didn't sound too much alike, but I had to give them different careers or different personality traits so you'd actually get who was who. And that's a lot harder than it sounds. So I definitely like it better when we're writing in one era.
Right, right. Okay, so we had some similarities or some commonalities when we were picking names. And for something that stood out to us were the doctors. You know, we had a doctor. Did we have a Dr. Pucci? I saw Willow Sorensen. Yes, yes. So we had that. We had Willow Sorensen. Now, to me, and I think, Carolyn, it was you that also had that. And to me, immediately when I think, you know, Willow Sorensen, that is just such a vivid name. And I'm immediately, you know, seeing this person in a physical sense. So what do you see with Willow, and then what characteristics would you put with her, Carolyn?
Me? Oh,
yeah, sure.
Well, to me, Willow is, how can I put it? Willowy. She's tall, she's blonde, Sorensen, right? She's gorgeous, but not with natural beauty, I would say. I picture her kind of brimming with health. Maybe she plays tennis or something, or she's a swim instructor or skis, you know?
Yes, yes, like yes. Yeah, definitely. Joanna, you're nodding too.
Yeah, that's about how I see Willow.
Yeah, I definitely had an immediate picture of her being very willowy, but also I'm not thinking she's all that bright, maybe. I'm afraid to say that. So anyway, so what other, so we had some more character names go by. We had Willow was outdoorsy.
Actually. I don't know if we want to take it. We have a question in the chat about whether we get pushback on if we have too many characters.
Oh, we absolutely. That's a good question. And authors, why don't you answer that? Because I know, you know, the answer is, the short answer is yes.
Yeah.
And then what do you find, Joanna?
Well, if you have too many characters, then they don't all get enough screen time. If the book is an appropriate length, if they do get enough screen time, it probably means the book's running long. And they're probably not all equally important to the plot. So you want to keep the characters who are really contributing to the story. If they're kind of going off on a winding path or a tangent, you can put them in a different book.
Oh, or just kill them. You know, that's kind of what we're kind of here for anyway, right, kids? So, okay, so we had Willow Sorensen, we had Dr. Pucci.
Professor Pucci.
There was also a Sugar McGaskill that came by. So let's narrow it down. Let's do, there we go again. So Dr. Peter Bloodgood, all right. Professor Maggie Pucci, Fiona Hubert, Estelle Gardner. All right. So you want, let's keep those names there for a bit. Okay, so we have some good ideas with that. Let's pick where this event is going to happen. So, okay, audience, this is on you now. The next thing we want to see is setting. Where could this mystery happen? Does it happen in the Alps? Does it happen at a tennis club? Where does this happen? Let's see this. Detroit, Venice, Portland, Maine, Sweden, or the Keys. Okay.
A zoo.
A zoo.
A zoo. I like a zoo.
Right.
Yeah, that zoo is cool.
Abandoned zoo. Scooby-Doo can investigate.
Right.
All right. First class section of a plane, Village Ocean. Okay.
I'm
All
liking
right.
the wellness spa. I'm liking the wellness spa. I think Willow works there. You know,
Yeah, luxury
Willow.
hotel.
yeah,
Willow works there.
yeah. Oh, for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay, so we have the
For
zoo,
sure.
wellness spa, Plum Island. Oh, we're familiar with that all around.
Cruise ship. That's also a good one.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Oh, cruise ship. When you're deciding where to set your stories, Bruce, what do you choose? What draws you there?
I think, I mean, obviously the locale has a lot to do with the type of mystery you're doing, but I think I try to find, you want a nice balance, because for me, my series intentionally is set in Portland, Maine, or that's the epicenter of the stories. It's really a New England based stories, but they're set in Portland. And I think for me, it's important that the locale be a character, has as much significance to the story or stories as the characters do, because I think it's a place that if you flesh it out well enough, it'll be something that people will want to read more about.
Mm-hmm. And Carolyn, you're nodding yes. Tell me about what you think about your settings.
And all of the books that I wrote, the setting is as important. I don't want to say more important than the characters, but the setting really drives the story in a big way. And either the South Side of Chicago, that was my first series, Melody for Murder, or the second one, Death at a Seance, which is set in southern Indiana and which is historical. But also a big consideration for me is that I need to make sure I write something I know about enough that I don't get myself in deep doo-doo envisioning things that are in fact not real. I need to make sure that it's an area that I'm sufficiently interested and schooled in that I can be convincing when I write about it.
Right. And Joanna, you have a lot of your books are set right here in Boston. Do you find that that's too small a city, or do you find that that's just right because we have all the elements?
Oh, it's a fine size. It has all kinds of people and all kinds of neighborhoods. When I'm thinking about setting, I like specificity to really bring it to life. Like in my second book, there's a mention of a very specific 7-Eleven, which sits on the border between the very wealthy parts of Cambridge with the big pharma companies and MIT and the more impoverished parts. And so at this one 7-Eleven, you can get anybody from like a limo where a big CEO walks in and, you know, is like there in the expensive suit. One time I was in there and there were two hookers fighting over a cell phone. One time an entire teenage boys modeling agency dropped by. Like, you can't make this place up. It exists, and it's cool to put it in.
Well, and I also have to say that the lawyer in me knows that you can't be too specific. You can have a general meeting place like that where nothing really bad happens. But as soon as you eviscerate someone on the 7-Eleven floor, they're going to get a little testy that people knew that it, a crime, whether fictitious or not, happened there.
The place isn't held up on the regular, Connie.
Well, all the more reason not to be too specific on that, But so now, what we had zoo seem to perk us up a little bit. We had wellness spa, we had cruise ship. So folks, where is Willow Sorensen and Professor Pucci and Dr. Bloodgood? Where are they? And the doctor could be a vet. Maybe that's the kind of doctor Bloodgood is. So where are we going to put this mystery, kids?
I vote for cruise ship just because I'd like to be on one now.
Yeah.
You'd be by yourself.
Exactly.
You'd have to run the place.
No virus.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I like the cruise ship because it's contained. As a traditional mystery person, I'm kind of, it doesn't have to be like a locked room per se, but I need not unlimited number of suspects, and I need to have them controlled, so not just anyone can waltz in and waltz out. It needs to be a puzzle that the reader hopefully can engage in trying to solve, and I do follow the rules and drop little clues and all. So a cruise ship is great because they're trapped on there, and maybe they're in the first class cabin, or they're the staff, or there's something, so it's limited even further.
Okay, panel, do you like having it on a cruise ship? Is that going to work for you right now?
Sure.
Great. Sure. Okay, so let's talk about some of the occupations of our characters. What do they do? Is Dr. Bloodgood, is he a world famous cardiovascular surgeon, or is he not? What are some of the occupations? So we have Willow. What is Willow's occupation? And that's actually, hold on, folks. Audience, that's your clue to give us some occupations. Ship's doctor. Willow is a yoga instructor.
Willow's a prostitute.
They have.
She could be the front is the yoga instructor with a prostitute on the back, on the side.
Yep. And
she could be the cruise entertainment director who also teaches yoga.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That would be good. All
Yep.
right.
Oh, life coach. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. And
all right. And then prostitute. Okay. And then, okay. And what kind of doctor is Dr. Bloodgood? That's for you, audience. What kind of doctor is Dr. Forensic psychologist, shrink, virologist?
Oh, I like
biologist.
He's the ship's doctor, but he's really a plastic surgeon.
Right.
They got him on the cheap. He's not really that good of a doctor.
A quack, yeah.
He's a quack.
I like that.
Could be his secret,
Okay.
right? Is that he faked his credentials or something?
Yeah. There you go.
Okay. So what kind of doctor is he, kids?
A TV doctor.
I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like the
yes.
plastic surgeon. You can mess with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, plastic surgeon sounds
Yeah.
good.
Good.
Okay. All right. All right. I like this. All right. Joanna, you said you like to start your stories with some kind of plot or idea or where this is going. We don't yet have a weapon or a motive, but right now, what are you thinking? You have a setting, you have a beautiful Willow, you have Doctor, you have Professor Pucci, I believe is out there, one of ours as well. So now tell us what you think the plot might be through your suspense with a thriller edge to it.
Well, some of these people are going to have to die. Like,
Works for me.
We're keeping the cast pretty narrow for time purposes, but you'd need easily 3 times as many people, and some of them are going to start dropping dead. But you start thinking about, for me at least, motive. You know, what brings all these people together on this cruise ship? Some of them clearly are going to have to know each other. Like, you weren't expecting to see your plastic surgeon there. And, you know, he knows you have the fake boobs, but nobody else does, or, you know, something where you have a secret and he knows it or she knows it. And all of a sudden, like, it's combustible on the ship because you can't get away from one another. So you start thinking about secrets, really.
All right. So now, Bruce, is this going to be a tough setting for a police procedural?
Yeah, you'd have a hard time with that. I think you'd maybe want to have you'd look at a traditional mystery, but maybe an amateur sleuth. Maybe you have a PI on board that's assigned because something's been going on these cruises, and so they actually have a PI assigned to this cruise, and it happens.
All right. Well, you mentioned an interesting point about amateur sleuth, or if there really is a detective, because first off, anytime a dead body comes up, law enforcement, as you had said, is going to be involved on one level or another. But here's the thing about amateur sleuth, and with traditional especially, because it might not be an FBI agent like in Joanna's books, or a police detective as in Bruce's, but in a traditional, you have a different kind of sleuth who goes in. So that occupation is really important to legitimize why that sleuth can ask the questions they do. So what are your thoughts along those lines in the traditional world, Carolyn?
I think this is an excellent point, and I like Professor Pucci. I think someone had mentioned him as an archaeologist or something, and archaeologists dig into things, right? They're curious, they discover, and maybe there's some valuable treasure that's been stolen or hidden, or the person is killed with a 6 million year old Paleolithic dagger or something. I don't know. But the point is, you're right, always with your sleuth, if they're not the police or the FBI, the question is, why would they put their lives in danger, and to probe into this, and what's going to make people want to talk to them. So that always has to be a consideration.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because what really ratchets up the tension for an amateur sleuth is if they have something really big to lose if they don't solve the crime.
There you go.
Okay, so speaking of crime, hello audience. Next up, we want to see your weapons. Let's see it, folks.
Breasts?
Oh my.
Oh, Scott.
I'm not even sure where to go with that, but wow.
Somebody had suggested, well, the weapons are coming up, that it could be a class reunion, and that all these people know each other because they went to school together. That's a kind of interesting idea.
Yeah.
A reunion? Yeah.
Yeah. Or somebody else said like a mystery cruise where they're all, so they're all mystery things. And now here we've got they're killed by Lysol. I'm going to leave that alone also. But
oh, the disco ball in the dance hall.
Right.
Yeah, that's always a good one. That's always a good one.
Okay, so
Ooh, a barbell.
Yeah.
all right.
In the gym.
So we haven't yet gotten our motive yet, but now we have, let's talk about weapons. First off, what's your favorite weapon to kill somebody with? Making this up, of course, right?
I was gonna say, allegedly, right?
Right, yeah.
So Bruce, what weapons do you like?
Traditional, probably knives and guns.
'Cause they're
Probably
accessible,
less likely to see the gun on a cruise ship, but maybe a knife.
Yeah.
That's
Nice.
right. That's right. So if you had anything in your bag of tricks to kill someone with, what's your favorite go-to? I know a lot of cozy, yeah, a lot of
how about a
cozies
cool
like
letter
poison.
opener?
What is this? Yeah.
Letter opener.
Letter opener.
Letter opener. I was thinking that actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I like the two-step poisons where, you know, you get the first thing and it's not poisonous until you get the second thing on top of it.
Yeah.
That's good.
I like that. So in other words, a two-step, everybody could consume step
Right.
one and they wouldn't die, but then only, then a certain select 1 or 2 or 3 get the double.
Yes.
All right, kids. Now then, let's talk about it. We're on, let's just say that the cruise ship was a floating convention hall. It was a cruise to the islands because it was a plastic surgeon convention. So maybe everybody looks a little different than they used to. So that's what we have right now. So, okay, who is our victim? And what we walk in, okay, the setting is, it's a cruise ship. It is a gorgeous day. The sea is very calm. Is the sea calm, kids, or is it choppy? I think it's
Let's make it
rocking.
choppy.
People
Right?
are, they don't feel
It's
so hot.
symbolic. We want that.
Yeah. So everybody's, anyway. All right. And then we walk into the ballroom and we see what, Joanna?
Well, I see a lot of people saying Willow is the victim.
Yeah.
So
Willow going down.
she's
We knew Willow was gonna go down right when we saw that name.
had suggested that the wires on the disco ball in the ballroom were cut and fell on her.
So we have a disco ball falling in a very targeted way on Willow.
Yeah.
So what are you thinking, Carolyn? You're thinking, you're nodding, you're like, yeah, that works.
Yeah, that it works. I think then we would have to look into why Willow, right? Beneath her sweet exterior and lissom, perfectly toned body, she's actually blackmailing the plastic surgeon or something, right? There's got to be something hidden behind.
She's not actually what she seems. She's not Willow. She's somebody else. Assumed Willow's identity.
So Bruce, in a police procedural, when you see a disco ball falling on one person's head, what's one of your first questions?
Was it actually meant for that person? Like for me, I'm sitting here thinking about this as you guys, I'm actually visualizing this as you guys are doing it. I'm thinking, all right, well, what if it's a near miss and it's designed to look like that person's the target, then later on in the evening, somebody else is found murdered.
I like it.
Now, this is just pushing out into the future, but maybe she's the killer and she wanted it to look like somebody was after her. You know what I mean? Rather than make it too straightforward.
Yes, I like that.
So authors, quickly, how do you ramp up tension and suspense and keep your reader guessing while you're placing all of those clues along the way? What do you do with that? Bruce, I'm going to start with you.
What was the question again? I'm sorry. I didn't think you were going to call on me.
Wake up, Bruce. Come on, we're all in this. This is live. This is live.
What did you say? I'm sorry.
So what do you do when you're unfolding the tale? What do you do to keep suspense and to keep your reader guessing?
Usually I'll have some rough idea of how I want the plot to go generally, not complete, but some idea. And then anytime I find myself second guessing how obvious the next situation is, I'll intentionally do a 180 and head somewhere else. Because as a reader first, I would think, well, this is too simple. This is obviously where this is going to go. So I have to come up with another way to do it.
And Carolyn, what about you?
What he said, I think all of us have read a lot of mysteries and we're used to kind of certain almost predictable patterns. And I'm pretty sure we've all watched a million movies and said halfway through the movie, he did it. she did it, whatever. So I really try to make sure that although I'm always fair with the clues, and if you're really dedicated, you can figure it out, but it's really good to have some hidden things like the character, the tip of them sticks up above, and there's a lot iceberg underneath about the character that is driving their actions that is not clear from the outset. And that helps as the character is revealed more, then more reason why they can be the murderer. But you see what I'm saying.
All right, so we had an attempted murder of Willow, who turns out to be, she's not the victim, but she's our villain. Okay, and I have it. There's a twist that was suggested by someone that that Willow used to be a man. That's why this plastic surgery cruise, when she was the yoga, when she was the cruise entertainment director, and all of a sudden she sees Dr. Bloodgood,
Who botched the surgery.
You know,
Now
I
there's
don't
motive.
want to know which body part was particularly botched there, Bruce. So, okay.
So then Peter Bloodgood is our actual victim.
And how does, okay, so we had the disco ball. So how does Bloodgood actually die?
somebody
Letter
said
opener.
a letter
The
opener.
captain's letter opener.
Yeah, letter
Somebody-
opener is always
I like
good.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so Willow's first name was actually William. Ah,
That's good.
see that? See that?
This is coming together.
example. I like that.
We got to start submitting this to a publisher. We can get this
Yeah.
out here.
Okay,
Right.
so we have to start thinking. So wait a second. Now we did have, the last piece was motive. So it sounds that we've already gotten to the point where Willow, who used to be William,
Right.
has the motive of keeping her identity secret from who? Everyone or a specific someone? Who did Willow really want to hide her manliness from?
Well, it has to be one of these other people, right? Fiona
Yes.
Hubert, Estelle Gardner, Sally Starr. We
Oh,
haven't
Sally
done
Starr.
anything, yeah, with these people.
Was formerly a stripper
Oh, definitely.
with that name.
Oh, wait, no way not to. Yeah.
You have a name like that and you just gotta go with stripper.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
William,
not a dentist
Willow
name.
must have done something wrong or very bad when Willow was William,
Right.
right?
Mm.
And presumably William must have wronged one of these other people in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Professor Maggie Pucci was wronged by William Willow.
X.
Yes?
An X. Bad breakup.
Oh, there you go. A bad breakup. We can definitely do that.
Mm.
Okay, so we have one from Jean Lambert, but Bloodgood comes into contact with the envelope's adhesive, which disables him, and then someone picks up the letter opener in his office.
Ah.
See, I'm telling you, once these ideas start rolling, it's hard to corral them in. And that brings me back to my authors again. When you're writing, do your characters just start taking over, or do you really narrow it down? Do you have to really corral them in? Bruce?
I think in your first draft, you really have to let the characters go with it. I mean, I think it's like the half plotted, half pantsed manuscript where you're going along, but then you recognize that sometimes the characters, based on who they are, will have better ideas about how something would go than you do.
Yeah.
You can write a scene that you think afterwards, they would never do this. And then the character themselves sort of drive the direction.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Carolyn, do you agree?
Absolutely. And it's really important to be able to be flexible enough to let them take it, because they're like icebergs, and at first you only see this much, and now you're going to see more as you keep writing. They come alive.
Okay. We're gonna break for Q&As real soon. So what is the title of our story, kids? Death on the High. Well, on a traditional, it would be like a Death on the High Seas.
Death on the High
Yeah.
Seas. Yep.
Okay, and then that, yeah.
Yeah,
So
well, that gives
500.
away, right?
What is it? Yeah, right.
Broken Willow.
Yeah, well, I was. Yeah.
There we go. We love this. We love this.
Cruise to nowhere.
Okay.
Death by Disco. Death by Disco.
Death
Yes.
by Disco. That's good. Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
Good.
That's it. That's good. And then, audience, do you have some specific questions for us? You can start putting specific. Oh,
Yeah,
Jen, you.
I'll let you know there is a question that someone put in the Q&A. Denise has asked, how many plot devices are too many?
Oh, so you want to have the main plot, obviously, and you do want to have a couple of red herrings. You know, you want to start off, as Carolyn said, you want to play fair. You don't want to pull a rabbit out of the hat at the end of that. But you want to have at least two running narratives, because one is going to be the red herring and then the other is going to come up. At least two. But do you, Joanna, do you have too many narratives? Is there such thing as too many?
Yeah, I mean, you can have too much going on and it becomes hard to follow. I mean, you're allowed one coincidence per book, basically. You know, one lucky break or whatever. Right. But beyond that, it's somewhat better to have too much than too little. Like you want to feel like the book is moving, so things should be happening.
Right. And don't forget that your characters' backstories provide a lot of those plot devices too. Was there another question out there for audience? You had more for us? Put that into chat.
Well, someone has used the Q&A, which is what in the other events, we've been pointing people to Q&A.
Yeah, that's fine.
I can read them. Do you insert the red herrings after figuring out the main plot or simultaneously?
For me, it's as I go. I'm a linear writer, so I know pretty much where it's going when I start, and I generate the plot and who did it, and then I think of other people who might have done it, and they all sort of come up at the same time. Occasionally there's like a diversion or a kink along the way where I'm like, oh, this is cool to insert here. But for the most part, it comes along right as I'm writing.
Do you outline, Joanna?
No, I do not.
Yeah, it's the seat of the pants all the way. Bruce, do you outline?
It's half and half. Usually I'll have a pretty good idea of how I want the arc of the story to go, but I don't have a lot of questions answered, and they tend to come up and answer themselves as I'm writing. Like, I don't know yet what I don't know until I've written it.
Right.
And then Carolyn, how about you?
Yeah, I will have an outline so that I make sure that I get all the important plot, the notes hit, but then sometimes how it goes between those notes is something that I like, the major points, and then being creative about how I get there or allowing it to be more organic.
Right. You know, I appreciate that, because I write, I know what my end point is. I kind of know what the resolution is going to be, but how I get from point A to point Z is anybody's guess. And sometimes it's just really hard to do. We had a question from one audience about how about writing a why done it and not a who done it. And I have to say that that's almost genre related, because in a who done it, that's more like a traditional mystery, a dead body, let's figure out the clues and who did it. But in a lot of Joanna's stories for suspense and thriller, it's kind of like, why? we know the who, we know the villain is planting the bomb somewhere, so we see that happen, but then we want to know, why. So not all stories are the whodunits. Would you agree with that, Joanna?
Yeah, I mean, mine, to be fair, are generally whodunits. But yes, you can absolutely have a why, and that's can be just as compelling.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have another question about what makes a satisfying ending, which I think is a really cool question because it's something I think about a lot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think for a mystery, a satisfying ending is there's some sort of justice, maybe not complete. For me, and this is kind of what makes me not traditional or cozy, is that sometimes the justice is imperfect. But there is some justice, some wrong has been righted, but also that it should feel somewhat surprising, ideally, for a mystery, but also when the truth is revealed, you should say, oh yes, of course this is the answer, not what?
Yeah.
Right.
You have to play fair with your audience.
Exactly.
Right. Carolyn, you obviously agree with that.
Traditional mystery, the bad guy is going down. Either he's dead, he's caught, he's taken away in handcuffs, good triumphs, the good guys win, woo-hoo. This is, yes.
Right, and I do know that in cozies, it's very important in that specific genre that the world is made right again, that the peaceful village is now peaceful once again. So traditional, the bad guy gets it.
Yep.
And, Joanna mentioned something really important, that sometimes the ending isn't always a happy one. That it's not always, let the music swell and everyone, goes back to their normal lives, that it's almost more real and gritty to leave that little annoying buzz out there, which may in fact set you up for the sequel. If you don't tie up all those loose ends, Bruce, what are your thoughts on ending your stories?
No, that is true. Intentionally on the second novel in this series, I left a plot point open during a conversation between my two main characters. And it was a minor point to the story, but it was part of their lives that was unresolved. And Diane Joyner tells John Byron that she's made a decision regarding promotion. And then that's the end of it. And my editor read the draft and he goes, I'm turning pages going, what happened? What happened? Like, does she do it? Does she not do it? And I said, well, you have to read the next book like everybody else. So I think you can leave some things undone, and I think that definitely is fun. It's the same reason we all get mad when a season ends and we have to wait another year for our show to come back on again, because they leave things unresolved. I like that.
And I think that's the perfect note to end on here, because I think there's plenty more questions, but we're going to leave everyone in suspense.
Right.
I think we need this activity, this game at the Newburyport Literary Festival next April, and they can all come back and see the next installment. So
Sisters in Crime, we have a lot of authors. We would love to come back for you, and every time this panel is done, it is always different.
So
thank you. Hey, hold up your books.
Yeah. Hey, author.
So much to the authors for spending your afternoon with us, and attendees, thank you. This was such a fun session.
Thank you.
I really appreciate everyone's participation. We have 2 more events today, both happening at 4 o'clock. So there's still a little bit more to the festival for today. And then there are more events on May 3rd. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, audience.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.